May all beings be happy. May all beings be healthy. May all beings be free from harm. May all beings love life. May all beings awaken. Welcome to another Cuke Audio mini podcast. I pray that you and yours are safe and comfortable, free from economic struggle, and able to get out and do whatever it is you want within the limitations of the universal precept of do as little harm as possible. So today I'm just going to read you something from a Shunryu Suzuki lecture given on the 8th of April 1969. I put up lecture excerpts on What's New every day, Cuke.com's What's New. So I was looking for what to put up today, and it's sort of neat, but I guess I could put the whole thing up. Maybe I will. I usually they're pretty brief what I put up, and like maybe one sentence or 5 sentences, maybe a paragraph. This goes on a way, and I edit them too. Anyway, I just thought I'd share it with you because something happened. So when he's telling this story, so he says in the Shobo Ginzo, on the first chapter, Dogen Zenji refers to an interesting story. There was a priest called Gensoku who was taking care of the temple of Hogen Zenji. And he thought he understood Buddhism pretty well, so he didn't ask any question of the master, and he hadn't asked anything. And he'd been there for 3 years. And so at last, Hogen Zenji asked him, "It's already been 3 years since you came here. Why don't you ask some question?" And Gensoku said, but then somebody raised their hand. While Suzuki's giving this talk, somebody raised their hand, and Suzuki said, "Excuse me?" And the student said, the Lankavatara Sutra says that there are 2 different classes of beings, and one person is called the non-returner, and one is called the returners, or the once returners. Suzuki Roshi goes, mm-hmm. And the student says, I would imagine that the former are the ones who would maintain to keep their selfish desires, whereas the latter would not keep their selfish desires. And Suzuki goes, mm-hmm, yeah. And then Suzuki says, and why don't you ask some question, the master said. But that acolyte, said, I studied for a long time under Seiho Zenji, and I think I understand what is Buddhism completely. Well, so, then Hogan says, well, and how do you understand Buddhism? And the priest said, well, my old master said Buddhism's like fire seeking fire. So study Buddhism is like Buddha studying Buddha. That's my understanding of how we study Buddhism. And then Hogan says to him, he said, that's what I thought. You don't understand what Buddhism is at all. So Gensoku got very upset and he went away. He left the temple. But before he'd traveled very far, he thought, Hogan's a famous Zen master. Must be some reason why he said, I don't understand Buddhism when I said it's like fire seeking for fire. So he thought, Well, it may be a good chance for me to have some real understanding of Buddhism. He must have some good understanding of our way. So Gensoka went back, and he asked Hogen, what is the true way to study Buddhism? And Hogen said, it is like fire seeking fire. And then everybody in the room laughs, right? And Suzuki laughs. And Suzuki says, he repeated the same thing. And Dogen Zenshi said, you know, he was enlightened by the same words when before he thought, well, I understand. My understanding is perfect. And that's why his understanding was not perfect. When he gave up his intellectual understanding, his limited understanding, when he tried to seek for something more, his mind was open and enlightened. So Dogen said, if you understand like that acolyte and think that's the way to understand what Buddhism is, Buddhism will not continue for long. I was just reading what Suzuki said and, sort of editing it a little as I went along. But wasn't that great? He's telling the story, and in the story he says, and the master says to him, why don't you ask some question? And some student who's sitting out there obviously is not paying attention. He just hears, why don't you ask some question? And raises his hand and asks a question in the middle of Suzuki telling this story. Suzuki listened a while and went, and then continued. He continued in such a way that the student would pick up. He just said, and then the master said, why don't you ask some questions, some blah, blah. So anyway, I thought that was funny. And I think it's a good story. So we're like those of us who are dedicated on the path of awakening. Our practice is like fire seeking fire, Buddha studying Buddha. If we think we understand, okay. This has been a Cuke Audio mini podcast. I'm DC Bubov with Cuke Audio and Cuke Archives, coming to you from Sleepy Sanur with Doghead Bandita, Feline Cuchita, and dear lovely Katrinka. And we're wishing you and yours and all of us a grand awakening.